Welcome to the Prince George's County Office of the Sheriff Behind the Badge podcast with Sheriff John Carr. I'm your host, Taylor Thomas, Public Information Officer for the Office of the Sheriff. Sheriff Carr, we're a few weeks from kicking off the summer. What are some of your concerns as we get ready to get into some hot weather?
So as we're starting to get into the hot weather, our concerns right now are dealing with our youth, making sure that they have activities and what to do. Also looking at from our federal partners. A lot of our folks have been, citizens who work in the federal government have been let go. So we are paying attention to, again, our landlord-tenant issues. Of course, we're always focusing around domestic violence. Those numbers seem to always rise around this time frame. So each and every month, we start to see just a few things that, we know like ebbs and flows that start to creep up on us. And we want to make sure this year we're very proactive. And we want to reach out to our community and make sure they understand the resources that we do have.
So is there any special type of training or refresher that happens ahead of these cyclical things that you normally see an uptick in situations?
Yes. So around this time frame, you will have a lot of training and you will have a lot of activities for our youth.
Okay.
Dealing with mentorship, also dealing with some of the parents as far as what they may need to know as far as how to deal with the youth, what to do with them during the summertime. Of course, we have our wonderful summer program in which we actually do pay for our youth to come here in Prince George's County and work at our government agencies. But we also have a lot of other programs, such as the Sheriff's Office. We do a free summer camp for our middle school students, which is always wonderful to have them out there, to take them different places. When it comes to our landlord-tenant and our civil, we want to make sure that our citizens are aware of the emergency rental assistance program. We want to make sure that funds or any relief programs out here that they're aware of so that they can get ahead of it if they do fall behind. When it comes to domestic violence, again, we have training classes. We have a wonderful facility at our Family Justice Center that people need to be a partner with and be able to go to the resources there, as they have several different organizations all in one that we're able to work with. So we do talk to our survivors or just anybody in your family that you think may be going through a hard time. They're able to assist them. Now,
if you could say anything to residents as far as knowing what the Office of the Sheriff does, because I know that's one thing we want people to understand, what would you say that would be, Sheriff Carr?
Wow, that's a good question. So one of the biggest things, a lot of people may not know exactly what we do, but one of our biggest things is we try to make people whole again. Anything dealing with the courts is what we deal with. So we specialize in domestic violence, warrants, child support, landlord-tenant, civil. We also have our fugitive section, course warrants, in which we extradite those who are wanted back into the county so that they can face their charges. We also deal with transportation and those who are in custody. So we do work with our returning citizens. We have a few programs in which we're working with them, but we're really in the business of making people whole again and making sure that we take care of our citizens. But we are the law enforcement arm of the courts.
And that's important to know. And also what's important to know, you can get additional information about the Prince George's County Office of the Sheriff and the outreaches, the bureaus, all the information, contact information at pgsheriff.com. There's even an app for it. All right, so, we are going to take a really quick commercial break. We'll be right back. We're going to discuss the growing domestic violence issue in the county with two community leaders who have pledged to help make a difference. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with the PGSO Behind the Badge with Sheriff John Carr.
When we have the food we need, we are at our best. We push further. We rise higher. We unlock our full potential. When we are at our best, we have more to offer the world around us. When we have the food we need, we make our communities stronger. Together, we can help everyone get the food they need to thrive. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
We hear the stories of people forced to abandon their home. the stories of people whose dreams have been swept away, or their lives left hanging by a thread. Or whose worlds have been blasted apart. Although the stories repeat themselves, each person's experience is unique as they are. And whether it's care or community that people need, we're here to help them live a new chapter, to embrace what makes them unique, be a lifeline to the most vulnerable.
Welcome back to PGSO Behind the Badge with Sheriff John Carr. I am Taylor Thomas, Public Information Officer for the Prince George's County Office of the Sheriff. We have Sheriff, of course, John Carr here. And now joining us, we have Prince George's County Councilwoman Wanika Fisher for District 2 and Dr. Denise McCain, Director of the Family Justice Center in Prince George's County. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
We appreciate you. We're going to get right into it. So, Dr. McCain, the Family Justice Center, for those who are not familiar with your organization, its goals and its purpose.
So the Family Justice Center, we were established in 2016 as a one-stop shop resource for survivors of domestic violence, but also sexual assault, human trafficking, and elder abuse. Our goal was really to make services and resources available to survivors in a way that was much more efficient, more holistic, and more client-centered. As you can imagine, someone who has experienced abuse is probably traumatized, uncertain about where to go, what to do, how to get help. The Family Justice Center makes that process much more efficient by co-locating 23 organizations all in one facility so that, again, you don't have to go to 3, 4, 5 different places to get help. Even thinking about how difficult it can be to navigate a very complex system, resources and services are there. Again, the 23 organizations, we provide emergency shelter, we help with protective orders, counseling, and we even provide forensic examinations as well for victims of strangulation and rape.
Now, since this is such a sensitive topic, how do you go about reaching them? Is it just social media, or is it court services and that's the initial contact?
Well, it's a variety of ways. Again, we are an initiative of the circuit court, so I think our primary referral base is the court system. Judges make the referrals when survivors are in court or petitioners are in court. But then, too, we use other mediums such as social media. Our partner organizations as well are a referral for us. So it really varies.
And Councilwoman Wanika Fisher, you are not only an elected official, you're a survivor, and you earlier in the year stood up and said, I am going to make sure that victims, survivors, families dealing with this know that you have the support of the council and my support. Can we talk a little bit more about some things? Because last month you held a wonderful a chat at Chick-fil-A in Clinton, and it was just an open discussion. Office of the Sheriff was there, Denise McCain was there, and a number of advocates for domestic violence.
Yes, I want to thank both of them for being there. And domestic violence is on the rise, actually, in our county, and I'm there as an ally to support victims. I've been blessed that I haven't personally been a victim, but I have seen it throughout parts of my family and my community, and so it's super important that we address basically this silent, sometimes epidemic in our county. In 2024 in our county, we had over 2,100 protective orders in Prince George's County, and I think that just shows you the rise that's there, and that conversation was really helpful because I think as a legislator in our county, someone that's been in the public safety space my entire career, there hasn't been a plan on how we are going to use our taxpayer money, our resources, our community organizations, our church community to really get the heart to reduce our numbers in domestic violence. And I think for me, personally, the pandemic was something that really triggered that in our community and people struggling at home and really not having any ability to escape. And so I think in this role on the council, I'm really doing my best to make sure that we bring people together so we can actually chart a course forward.
Sheriff Carr, I see you shaking your head, and I know what domestic violence and eradicating it in the county means to you. You're shaking your head. Why?
So having these wonderful partners in order to try to address domestic violence, as you realize today's show is not in the fall when we're talking about Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This is something that needs to be year-round, 365 days. So I made it a goal, not only just of the sheriff's office, but really just throughout the state, that we always focus on domestic violence. And we really need to talk about what we're seeing as far as the trends, dealing with the mental health, dealing when we talk about trying to eradicate domestic violence and the resources, that we don't work in our silos, that we all need to work together and be able to ensure that the resources that we do have in our different organizations are all one, and that it's not a battle where I'm handling or addressing just peace and protective orders, and I'm not actually making sure that we refer over to our Family Justice Center, which is wonderful. You also have the police department. You also have our municipal organizations. You also have the county council, which actually dictates, the funding and budget, not only just for the sheriff's office, but also dealing with the courts. So you see how all of this is all connected. Us working together and making sure that the resources are there, making sure that we get the word out, and making sure that our citizens know that they should feel safe and that you have people advocating and working for them is key. So that's one of the reasons why we are here today.
Dr. McCain, what do you need? I was a part of that discussion at the Chick-fil-A along with the sheriff and a number of county residents and advocates. What do you need? What would you like to see?
Well, I take that on two fronts. What we need are resources. For one, you just mentioned that, Sheriff Carr. We are unfortunately at a place where our dollars are dwindling, and they're becoming extremely scarce. And we need more help in terms of our ability to do the work that we're doing, just keeping our doors open, keeping individuals funded, employed, and with the funds that we get. But on another front, I think we also, and you mentioned this, and I've always been a major proponent of coordination and collaboration, which is what the Family Justice Center is about. We can do a much better job if we do this together, collectively. This is not an issue that is the responsibility of just one entity, one organization, such as the sheriff, the police, the prosecutor's office. We have to do this as a team, with a very coordinated and collaborative approach, because we're all doing this work, but we can do it better if we're working together. So I think, your idea about having a work group, council member, is amazing, and I think something that we've not done, but we should start looking at, because we talk about this, we know it's a real issue, but what are we really doing to make a difference, And we can make a difference if we're doing something that's very strategic, very coordinated, that we know these are the issues, these are the things that we're tackling. Otherwise, we're just kind of going in circles.
Sheriff, what are some of the numbers that we're looking at in Prince George's County? Because I believe, if I'm correct, sir, that we lead the state.
Yes, unfortunately, we are number one in the state. As we start to look at protective orders, we're still very high. We're always averaging around 1,700. I believe we got down to our lowest numbers will probably be 1,500 to 1,400. But when you add peace orders to that, we're over 2,000, and we're doing that a month. And that's a month. So that is not just for the year, that's a month. So it actually tells you our citizens are going through things in their homes, and they need the resources. We also want to take a look at those refiles and the filings in the courts, because, again, it does take time for individuals to go through that whole process, but we want to make sure that they feel at ease. And that's one of the reasons why the Family Justice Center is able to, you're not telling your story 4 and 5 different times to different organizations. You only can tell it once, and you have everybody right then and there. From the sheriff's office, as we serve our peace and protective orders, we want to make sure that, hey, those individuals, if they have weapons, we're able to take those weapons away to make sure that people feel safe, and then we're also able to get them into the courthouse so that this can be taken care of, adjudicated, and that we can actually make sure that both parties understand exactly what they are to abide by in making sure this domestic violence situation can be addressed. A lot of times I don't think we actually look at sometimes the abusers. And there are also some programs out there dealing with some of those abusers as well, because we start to see that this is something that comes from a family. This is something to where they may have seen in their household. So you're talking about programs in which you're not only dealing with those survivors, but we want to look at it and be more proactive. And I think working together, we can be proactive. I know the councilwoman brought up a wonderful, wonderful idea last month in which we were talking about looking at this as a health crisis. And that's what it is. Because a lot of times you actually combine that mental health element to it. You start to see where some of these disputes and where some of these, altercations actually occur. And it's really dealing with the family and trying to make them whole again.
And Dr. McCain, what are the numbers that you're seeing on any given month?
We average probably about 60 to 75 cases a month. And a lot of those cases are coming in from the police department. They're one of our partners. When they do or go out for their 911 service calls, many of those cases are coming back to us where we're following up. So that's on average. But I will say we are looking at probably, unfortunately, more domestic homicides this year. We've already had 4. This year, and we're only in the 4th month of the year. So it's inevitable that this is not something that's going to decrease or go away.
And Councilwoman Fisher, I have to apologize. I meant to say supporter, not survivor.
That's okay.
You're a supporter of domestic violence victims and advocating for them. So with hearing what you're hearing from the law enforcement side and from the advocacy side, where do you stand with the county council and some thoughts that you have that the community needs to know about?
Yeah, I'm really excited. Right now we're in the budget season, so I take these thoughts with me. I was the chair of Health and Human Services and Public Safety. I still vice chair that, and all of our General Assembly, which means all of our Annapolis support, Annapolis requirements. I chair that for the council. So I'm taking the needs of our domestic violence community at heart as we go through the budget process with both of their budgets and others. And then I would say after that, I'm very excited with the support of a lot of the leaders that you've had, right, sitting with me here, but the other leaders that you featured, going forward with a work group that the council will introduce in the summer. So after the budget passes in May, the legislation will be introduced to create a work group so we can have a strategic plan. When we talk about, you'll hear buzzwords like we're all investing on the Blue Line corridor, there was a ribbon cutting today, but what are we doing to make sure that some of our developer community steps up and commits to some transitional housing as a part of that, right? Like, what are we going to do? Because that's one of the huge issues. It's not just because for Prince George's County that we're the leader in the state. We also have an economic disparity issue in our county, and then obviously just regionally, right? Where we're kind of housing all of that. So the economics follows the hurt. It really does. And so I think the council's perspective is how are we having that as a part of everything that we do? And I think that this legislation and a work group to actually have a county strategic plan of recommendations when it comes to housing, healthcare, like I said, I think the Board of Public Health, which the council also sits as the Board of Public Health, and looking at domestic violence as a health epidemic in our county, I think will change the seriousness and also like the attention and pressure that's put to make these things come together, because they're expensive. And I think that's the part where the council has to step up more. And I think we're ready to do that. I'm ready to lead the council in that way to do that, because there's always a million things going on in the county, which we all enjoy. But domestic violence is serious, and it's a point that it's impacting almost all of our residents somehow. Versus some things, you might hear about it, but it does. If you don't have a kid, maybe the schools doesn't impact you. Everybody is impacted by domestic violence in our community. You are touched by it, whether you see it or not. And so it's really important that we tackle it and have a plan going forward.
I wonder what anyone on this panel thinks in regards to domestic violence, because sometimes you get people that it just becomes, I don't want to say a fad, but 1 month we focus on it and everyone's wearing the purple and everyone's doing it. How do you think you can combat that? Because I think they only think it's just that one time you do it. The sheriff just said this is 365 every single day of the year. We should think about people are dealing with it every single day, every minute, right? Depending on where you are in the country. But what do you think about that? Just bridging that gap for people to really relate to it. I think they always think it's someone else or.
My thought on that is that, there's still a great deal of stigma around the issue, and it's not something that people are comfortable talking about. They don't necessarily go out and acknowledge, go to work, meet with their friends and say, hey, guess what happened to me? It's still a very private issue. And so because of that, it's not talked about. And it's not normalized in the sense that we know what's going on, and it's something that needs to be addressed beyond October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So I think in one way, we have to do more about getting the word out, letting people know that there's help, there's no shame, it's not your fault, and you're not alone, and we're here to help you. And I think the more we do that and the better we are at it, I think we will see more attention brought to the issue.
Councilwoman Fisher, is there some support that the community and residents can give to the issue and the mission that you have within the council?
Yes, I always think it's important to show up and speak your voice. So
Okay.
during this cycle, people will come, the sheriff, the justice system will talk about the money that they need. But when residents come and speak to the council about the money that they feel needs to go to certain things, I think that'll be helpful. And I think the work group that we're going to put together that's going to interplay our health and housing and our domestic violence leaders together, I think it's helpful to participate and offer that public comment. And you can really see changes that occur when you actually come together and share your voice. And I think the stigma around it as well is that it's always a personal thing, right? Whether it's your relationship or your family or your kids, and people, especially these things, the way people want to show up on the gram, like everything's rosy and everything's good and I'm just living my best life. People use that to hide what is really there. And I think the more and more that we actually not only talk about it, but have people realize this is not something you can get out on your own. There are other things in your life that maybe if you want to maybe even diet better, you can, stick to it and maybe do that. Domestic violence, the cost that it takes you to get out of something and the amount of help that you're going to need depending on the dynamic and the situation, you are going to need help. It is not something you can do solo dolo. And I think that's the thing that I have really come to terms with in trying to support my colleagues here in the work that they're doing, is that it's not something that someone can just get over themselves. And because it is something that impacts your whole family, even if you, let's say, we'll use the typical intimate partner violence, and it's your husband and a wife, your kids are going to have mental repercussions for whatever happened in that house. So now you're going to have to get them mental support. Now, are they going to have different issues? Now you're going to have to figure out how are you going to do visitation and things like that, the financial dynamics with your abuser, who's also your co-parent. It is not a solo act to survive. And then my important thing is not only that they survive, but that they thrive. And if you want to thrive after this, it's going to take all of us to help our community. And I think that is the thing that's so different about this space and this moment than I think any other challenge that we're facing here in the county.
I want to do something we have about 2.5 minutes left, and I think we can maybe look in the center camera. So Sheriff, I'm going to have you sign it off. I want you to talk directly into the camera, and what message would you like to send to people in Prince George's County as it pertains to domestic violence?
I just think that as it pertains to domestic violence, we're definitely able and strong together. We're definitely able to eradicate domestic violence here in Prince George's County, getting the message out and being more proactive. What we see is some of the behavior and some of the, the actions of individuals in a relationship. It's not the norm. And we want to make sure that our citizens know that we have the resources here. We're there for you. If you want to talk, you have these resources here in the county. And make no mistake about it. It's all about us assisting you and putting you in a safe space. And that's what I want to make sure that our citizens know. We have the resources here, and we are about making sure that we take care of you in your time of need.
Councilwoman Fisher.
I just want to say ditto to our great sheriff. And one, you're not alone, and you don't just matter in October, you matter throughout the year, and that we want to wrap our arms around you to help you. And for my residents that are not maybe a direct victim, you can do something today. Don't feel overwhelmed by, we have big budget issues, big law enforcement numbers, recruitment and retention issues, but one kind act to someone in your community, making a donation for clothing, for resources can really help someone. And so I just ask anyone that is watching this today, find one thing you're going to do this week or this month to help someone else. And if every single person in our 1 million+ person county, 1 million acts of kindness can make a huge difference.
Dr. McCain?
Well, I too would also concur with both my colleagues here, and thank you both for what you do. You know, my message is to a survivor, someone who is actually in a situation and is afraid to leave, is afraid to even reach out for help. You know, your current situation is not your future. And I think that's one of the things that paralyzes victims. They don't know what to expect, don't know what comes next. Step out, ask for help. We're there to support you. And your life does not have to be filled with abuse. So reach out. Services and resources are available to you. Take back your power.
I just love it. Just this show is amazing, and I know it's going to change lives. I just want to thank our in-studio guests, of course, Prince George's County Councilwoman Juanita Fisher, District 2, and Dr. Denise McCain of Prince George's County Family Justice Center, and of course, Sheriff John Carr taking part today. We thank you guys so very much. But if you have a topic or organization that you want to discuss the topic or show or event in the area, come and email me at shf-pio@co.pg.md.us. Until next time, stay safe and informed.